Okay, so today we have a Rebel 1100. This is a 2021 model. This is the 1100. It also has the DCT dual clutch transmission, as you can see. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to go ahead and do a complete oil change. So I'm going to go out with the list of stuff that we need first of all. So obviously you're going to need a drain pan and you're going to need the funnel. I'm going to have some shop towels nearby. I'm also going to have my gloves on today. I have a filter wrench. I have a number 10 wrench right there for opening the drain plug at the bottom. And then I have an Allen key that fits into the slots here because you'll have to take this panel off to get to the DCT filter. And I'll walk through it step by step. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're down here underneath the parallel twin engine for the Rebel 1100. There's two access points for the oil. One is for the engine, one is for the transmission. So this right here is the lug nut for draining the transmission oil. So now I'm going to go ahead and I've already loosened up the rear oil drain plug, and I'm going to go ahead and let that drain in as well. And what I do is I keep a rag nearby because this oil has a tendency to go places. Plus, when the drain plug comes out, it's a little oily. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so once we've got the oil drained and basically there's nothing else coming out of these drain plugs, I go ahead and install those back. So you can see on this one it's stopped, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the plug back, and I'll tighten it down in a few seconds. The rear one is still dripping a little bit, so we'll let it finish its thing. And then the next step is to move the drain pan closer to the filter, and we're going to go ahead and loosen it and take the filter off. Okay, so now I've got both of the drain plugs installed, this one and this one. I'm going to go ahead and just take my rag and just clean off this bottom part right here and just get rid of any surface oil that I can. And once that's done, I get my filter remover here, my plier for the filter, put it on there and give it a tug. It's on there pretty tight, and start to slowly get the filter off of there. And once we get it loose, then we'll hand open it up and make sure that your bucket is nearby because it's going to be messy. And we'll just let that drain, and I'll take you to the next step here in a few minutes. Okay, so we've got a brand new filter here. You can pause this and get the numbers, and I'm also going to read them out to you. This is a Honda factory filter. It's part number 15410-MFJ-002. And I basically bought this from my local Honda dealer. And what we're going to do is we're going to unwrap this, and we'll take a layer of oil and put it on the ring here, just around the ring, so that it makes a tight seal, and then we'll tighten it down onto it. Okay, so I've got my oil filter here. You can see it. It has nothing. It's all brand new. I'm just going to dip my finger into this oil and put a ring of oil all the way around it. And that just helps the seal adhere to the housing of the engine a little bit better. And that's it. So once I do that, then I'm going to go ahead and put it on to the housing of the engine, the filter housing. And you want to make sure that you thread it properly. You want to go slow. You don't want to cross thread it. It should just move freely like this. If there's any tension, because if you damage that inlet for the filter, that's going to be expensive to replace. So I hand tighten it down. And that's it. I don't use the filter wrench to tighten it down. You don't need it very, very tight. You need it snug up against there because that's all soft metal right there. And that's it. Once it's on like that, you're good to go. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this housing. This housing basically covers up right here the filter for the DCT dual clutch transmission. It's got a small filter in there, so we're going to go ahead and take that off. The way you do that is you use an Allen key here and an Allen key here, and take these two screws off, and then take these two screws off, and you'll be able to access it. Okay, so once we have that cover off, as you can see, that cover has been pulled off. Here it is right here. Once you get that cover off, your filter is located right here, okay? I don't know if you can see this. Let me tilt this phone down a little bit more. Your filter for the DCT transmission is right here, but you can't get it out because of this. So there's two more Allen keys here that we're going to go ahead and open up. Now, once you have that out, then you're able to get to this. This is a number 10 bolt, and you need to remove both of these. But right here in the middle, there's a spring. That spring forces the filter to stay in the back where the oil flow is. You want to make sure that when you're loosening this up, you keep a finger right here and keep pressure on it. Otherwise, that spring flies out, and so does this thing, and it would be a mess. So make sure you keep a finger on here and then loosen these two bolts. So as you can see, I've started to loosen the bolts here, and I'm keeping my finger on here. I can already feel the tension of the spring, and so you want to gently remove these bolts, but you want to keep a finger up there just to make sure that, you know, the spring doesn't fly out. So once you do that, and slide that off slowly. And here's your spring. That's going to fit right in here. Okay, so now it's time to pull this filter out. This filter doesn't just come out. It's actually in there because of the oil and whatnot. And you don't want to damage this housing by putting a screwdriver to it. So what I do is I take a plier that opens up, and I spread it open and then just gently pull it out. And that works like a champ each time. And this right here is the old filter. You can see it. And I'm going to go ahead and replace it with the new one. You can see that it's got the little oil seal right there. And basically this is the internal housing. Okay, so this is the original filter. If you want to pause, I don't know if you can read that. And I'll go ahead and read you the number. It's a Honda original DCT filter, dual clutch transmission filter, 15412-MGS-D21. And on this new filter, I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did with the oil filter on the engine. I'm going to take a little dab of oil and put it around this seal to loosen it up. So that way when we put it in there, it bonds carefully. And we got tons of oil right here, so we're just going to use that. And we're just going to put that in there. That's it. And that seal is good to go. We push this in. Make sure you push it in all the way. and then we go ahead and do the reverse of what we just did, and we'll start to reassemble it. So in order to reassemble it, we want to take the spring, and we want to take the spring and put it in there, and we want this lip right here to meet up with that spring. So be very careful, you don't want to damage any of this, and you'll feel it when it's in there, and then just hold it in place and put the 2 bolts back in slowly. One thing to note is that this cap basically is being pushed forward by the spring, and you want this seal right here where all the oil is going to flow to seat properly. And in order to do that, you want to make sure that you don't tighten down one side completely and then tighten the other side, because it's going to cause it to be warped. So you want to do one side, then go, then come back, then go, then come back, and so you evenly distribute the weight onto the spring. And that's it. Okay, so we've got our DCT filter changed. We've got the housing put back. The spring has been put back. Make sure you do all this in the correct order. We've got the screws put back in, the bolts put back in. We've tightened them down in a back and forth pattern. So we're pretty confident that everything is seated correctly. So now the next step is to start putting all of this back together. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the top cover put back, the cover over the DCT filter put back, and the DCT filter is in place. The final step that we have now is to go ahead and start adding the oil. This thing takes 4.5 quarts of oil, so you will have a half left over. And so yeah, we'll go ahead and start doing that on the other side. So this right here is your not your dipstick, but your filler cap for your engine. This is the only one single one because it's the same oil between the DCT and the engine. So basically unscrew it. We're going to put a funnel in here and we'll start filling up the oil. I forgot to mention that the oil that I'm using here is the Honda original factory 4-stroke motorcycle oil. It's Pro Honda. It's 10W40 in weight, and it basically is a GN4 based oil. So it's exactly what the DCT and this twin parallel engine need. And that's it, folks. We've got it filled up. We've got the dipstick, not really the dipstick, but the filler access point closed up. And the only thing I'm going to do is take my rags and just clean up around here for any drips or spills that might have happened. But otherwise, we're all good to go.